Even though I hadn't seen Jimmy in several years, I was banking on the fact that he still lived in Coney Island. Jimmy loved Coney Island. Coney Island was Jimmy's sweetheart, his soulmate. He loved her for her gilded past when she was queen of the prom. He loved her as she grew fatter and older and lost some of her looks.
Yeah.
He loved her in her darkest and most repressed phases when breakdowns started occurring on a regular basis. I took the D train to Stillwell Avenue. The walk from the station to Jimmy's apartment building was 5 blocks. The rain had picked up considerably. I walked along under the L, its tracks weeping. Jimmy lived in a high-rise, one of those buildings with hundreds of windows, thousands of bricks, and millions of secrets. I walked through the square courtyard where a bunch of teenage boys were hanging out playing music on a boombox. The boombox was on a bench and there was an umbrella set up to shield it from the rain. A couple of the boys were wearing hoods, the others weren't. None of them seemed to be bothered by the rain. As long as their boombox was playing, they'd be all right. "Evening, fellas," I said, and tipped my hat. They looked at me as if I were a foot fungus. You know that look? I rang the bell at re-seat. The name Barone was scratched out, only a fragment of a B faintly visible. No answer. I rang again and held down the button for an obnoxiously long time. A voice, garbled in static, came over the intercom. "Where are you looking for?" it crackled. "Looking for Jimmy Barone. Do I have the right apartment?" No response. "I'm looking for..." I started but was cut off, but it sounded like a robot being electrocuted. There was a click and I pushed the glass door open. I stood in the doorway for a moment, letting the thick, bassy sounds coming from the boombox envelop me like an electric blanket. I wanted to thank the boys for providing such an excellent soundtrack, then remembered that I was foot fungus and continued on my way. I climbed the stairs to the 3rd floor where Jimmy's apartment was. When I got to his door, I knocked, not expecting an answer, not getting one. I turned the knob, expecting the door to be open, and it was. 2 for 2, a good start. "Jimmy!" I called out. Silence. Jimmy's apartment smelled thickly of cigarette smoke and something else. Something missing. My nose couldn't put a finger on what that smell or unsmell was. The apartment was in total darkness. Recalling the layout of Jimmy's place, I crossed from the foyer into the living room. I fumbled for and found a light switch on a lamp and clicked it on. I saw that the lamp wasn't an ordinary lamp. It was Betty Boop. Her arms were elevated at 45-degree angles, holding the lampshade over her rotund head, which was now cast in silky bronze light. The light also set off the red dress she was wearing, giving it a luminous, old Hollywood look. Betty's saucer-shaped eyes seemed to be looking directly into me. Maybe they were trying to tell me something. "Question you later, Miss Boop," I said, knowing that I wouldn't. Surveyed the living room. No telltale sign of disturbance or disorder. I saw a phone on its cradle set on an end table. I picked it up. There was a dial tone. While checking the other rooms in the apartment, I found a second phone in the kitchen, and it too was working. Above the kitchen counter near the fridge, I spotted a laminated photo of Gabriella, Jimmy's mother, taped to a panel. The photo had been given out as a memento at Gabriella's funeral. I stared at the photo and never before realized how much Gabriella resembled a catcher's mitt, mostly in the cheeks and mouth. To the left of the photo, rosary beads hung on a nail. I removed the beads from the nail and stuffed them in my pocket. I'm not overly superstitious. You never know when rosary beads might come in handy.
That's right.
I sat on Jimmy's recliner in the living room and waited. Instinct told me that Jimmy wouldn't suddenly turn up, but it felt good to be in an apartment that wasn't my own. I went to the fridge to fix something to eat. Not much there. In the freezer, I found pepperoni and cheese Hot Pockets. I microwaved one on high for 2 minutes, then poured myself a glass of grape soda and went back to the recliner. While eating, I looked at Betty Boop looking at me. That got old quickly, so I went through Jimmy's records, which were stocked in crates on the living room floor. I wanted to hear something that would kick me in the ass and send me to the zoo. I settled on Led Zeppelin 3. Tried playing the record at a modest volume, but that wasn't doing the trick, so I turned it up full blast. Now there were fuzzy reverberations. Now there were tingles. I nuked another Hot Pocket and poured myself another glass of grape soda. This time I added ice. I was in no rush to leave. Music sounded better in other people's homes. Food tasted better. Drinks drank better. It was in the middle of Immigrant Song when a woman appeared in the doorway of the living room. Chapter 3. "What are you doing here?" she shouted over